Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the After
You
Movie.
wouldn't put it like that. It sounds like you're tired of it.
What?
It sounds like it's bringing you down.
Well, I go,
yet another.
Oh, okay. Hello and welcome to a wonderful, brand new, exciting episode of the After Movie Time.
Be a true American. Mask that despair.
Which I've been looking forward to all day and for weeks. Doing yet another episode with Sir Jim.
See, I believed
of
you
the
there
Wallace.
briefly.
No, I haven't.
But no, when you said about the day, like I look forward
because
to all day.
we have decided that for the coming weeks, and we've not decided for how long, but for the coming weeks, we are going to be indulging in exactly what, Jim?
We're indulging in a sleazy Spader springtime.
Sleazy Spader Springtime.
That was one of mine.
And well done. A small golf clap
Thank
for
you
you,
very much.
creating a alliterative Spader name for this. I believe I said that he is the sleaziest, slitheriest person to ever... No, he's the sleaziest man to have ever slithered onto the silver screen.
There it is. There it is.
It wasn't the cumbersome
That's why
word.
I come up with the names and you come up with the description.
The description. So, Spader is what it's all going to be about, and
All about the Spader.
I discovered a vat. Well, we could call it a vat, probably.
I think when it comes to films starring Spader, a vat. It's probably like the collective noun
of filthy
Spader
liquid.
films. Yeah.
Of filthy Spader.
When you get
fluid.
if you bought a Spader box set, it would say vat of
A
Spader.
vat of Spader. So I discovered a rich vat on Amazon and Netflix and various other places of, let's just say, rare and slightly off the beaten track Spader films, because obviously he's known for sexualizing videotapes, Crash, those kind of Secretary is obviously a big one for him, but and obviously in his early days Pretty in Pink and films such as that,
Right.
Along with fellow Brat Packer Andrew McCarthy.
So where's
if
this?
you go back
Sorry.
to the New Year's Eve Andrew McCarthy special, you'll hear us talk about Spader's work. However, what we are more interested in and more excited by are the sort of
Aroused
by is the off the beaten track, rare, weird, interesting, wonderful, and probably quite bad Spader B movies. That's kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah, Spader B.
Because I would say for every hit, there's probably 6 where you're like, he was in that? Like,
I'm not even sure. I mean, how many films starring Spader can be classed as a hit? Stargate, probably. That's one.
right? Age of Ultron, obviously.
Right.
Less Than Zero, was that a big hit?
I guess it's quite...
Pretty in Pink was a big hit.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, comparatively.
But it wasn't hung on him. Well, I guess he was in them, fair enough.
Yeah. Well, he was
What
probably
film starring Spader?
starring Spader.
Because at Stargate, he's just like him and Kurt Russell are the stars at Stargate. That's a hit. What else?
Starring Spader.
Starring Spader. Because what we watched was a film starring Spader.
Yeah.
He was like, it was, James Spader in
Right.
Jack's Back.
Jack's back.
Jack's Back.
Yeah. Well done for bringing up the name of the movie, because we haven't done that.
we haven't done it.
So well done.
We suck at introductions again.
We do suck in introductions.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Do you know what you want? I know what I want.
You do know what you want?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can
then I'll
wait
have,
if you
no,
want.
No, I'm going to have what I had last time then.
Okay.
You go ahead.
Can I have a Belgian waffle with sausage?
Okay.
And a cup of chamomile tea? Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
And I will have the popcorn shrimp and the disco fries
With mozzarella or American cheese?
on the disco fries. Oh, that's a tricky question.
I'll go with them. I don't know.
No, I'm going to go with the American cheese on the disco fries. I'm going to go classic.
Okay, fair enough.
on it. Popcorn shrimp, disco fries, that's it. I'm happy with water. That's great, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
So,
Jack's back.
Jack's back.
Jack's back.
So yes, we are delving into the vat.
We are delving
diving into the vat.
into Spader's lost underwear drawer.
I would say we were diving into Spader's vat much like those belly flop champions used to. Do you remember, like, they'd have like the very small paddling pool and dive off a high board, and the key was just to flap their
like Bugs
belly
Bunny
into-
and
No, they did it in real
Sam?
life. This was
Oh,
like
okay.
real life. This wasn't like a...
Oh, it was an actual thing?
Yeah,
Okay, alright.
belly flop championships used to be a thing back in the day. I'm sure you could Google it or YouTube it or something.
How old are you? Were you like secretly 104? Or something?
Yes, yes.
Did you used to go down to the belly flop championships?
No, I'm not going back to like
In
oldie
Missouri.
times. This was like 80s or early 90s.
Really?
Yeah. It used to be on like, I don't know, Noel Edmonds talks weird sports of the 90s.
I feel like you had a totally different experience of England than I did.
Yeah.
There were so many more surreal, inexplicable things happening to you. Like not only like on television, but in your life as well. It's just a whole different world.
I think I've maybe merged the two. I think maybe I've blended my memories with TV obscure 2 in the morning craziness.
You've just rewritten your own history with appearances from Mr. Blobbitt.
And Noel Edmonds.
Yeah, it'll be like you'll be remembering a time
Or
when...
Jeremy Beadle presents 100 hilarious home videos.
So you're, like
of
in your
belly
memories,
flop.
you're like remembering like one Christmas, and then Jeremy Beadle will walk into your memory. Wow, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
That's a great saucer.
It is, yeah.
It looks like some
kind of space age 50s.
I was going to say it looks like it should be on the bridge of the Star Trek.
It is, except it's too inefficiently big. On the Enterprise, it'd be like really tiny. They have really tiny cups of tea. They always have tiny cups of tea.
Tiny cups.
Never
of
like a big mug of coffee on the Enterprise. Always tiny cups of tea.
Tiny cups. Well, that's in case Scotty.
They don't want
takes
people
an
jittering, I
incredibly
suppose, at the
hard
controls
turn.
of the starship.
Right.
Then it'll be like Picard, like with a tapping foot, going, "What are we going to do? Oh, I don't know. Let's go here. Yeah. You know, and it doesn't.
You don't want
work.
Shatner's blood up because he
Yeah,
might go bonking his way through even more.
Well,
of the
he's going to do that. Yeah, he's going to do that
anyway.
anyway. I think Spader would have been an excellent like young Kirk. Do you know what I mean, if they were going to reboot Star Trek in the 80s.
If they redo, let's say Enterprise doesn't happen yet, and they have to cast Archer, Spader over Bakula.
When was that? When was Enterprise?
Enterprise was mid to late 90s. It started, I think,
So yeah, you
or
probably
early
could
2000s.
Spader could probably have
Because
pulled it
don't
off.
forget, he was credited, like all the ads was like meet Kirk's childhood hero, which was like a really great ad for Enterprise, and then the show was just boring and weird, right?
Right.
If they'd had meet his childhood hero and it was like Spader with a suit cut down to his navel, sleazing his way through the galaxy, you'd be like, that's Kirk's childhood hero.
Oh, you're right. That would have been really good.
And then the two of them would shown up in Boston Legal and the whole world would have just imploded.
No, I really like the idea of Spader on Enterprise. It's like a sleazy... Like,
Wearing the V-neck that he wore in
Like,
Jack's
if
back
you-
with his chest hair
But if you-
obscenely poking out.
If you imagine that, like, the idea is that Kirk's childhood hero is going to be even more Kirk than Kirk. He's going to be even sleazier.
That's what I
and
mean.
even more violent and even more unhinged.
Yeah,
That would be brilliant.
wouldn't it be amazing?
That would have been really, really good.
Spader would have been a much better captain
Yeah, I agree.
than
Okay,
Bakula.
fair enough,
Because
fair
who's Bakula? You know what I mean?
I know. I mean, who is? Yeah, he's just like a bloke without a face.
he's like a cipher for blandness.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I was trying to. Sorry, can you run that again, Scott? That take again? Because I was looking at you, but somehow, like, vision was just sliding off your face to the point where I forgot where I was or
So
what we
anyway,
were doing.
because I feel like
Sorry,
Jack's
Jack Black,
facts
yeah.
is a riddle.
Taking a backseat.
It's riddle begging to be unravelled
Yes.
by us.
Yeah, fair enough.
So basically, it's 1980, I think 87.
Okay. You're the facts, man.
It's that area. And Spader is in the period of his career where, if I'm correct, from
People are
the
trying to
interview I
figure out
saw
what to
earlier-
do with him.
Yeah. First of all, people are trying to figure out what to do with him. Secondly, he is doing like sleazy, unlikable character after sleazy, unlikable character, sort of out the gate. But he's doing it very interestingly. I saw an interview with him where he said, I always take the summers off. Like, my key thing is I always take the summers off. So I do a movie in the spring and I do a movie in the fall, and then I take the summers off. And I think I'm right in saying, although I couldn't corroborate it tonight, but I swear I've heard it before, that certainly when he was younger, he used to take big cross-country road trips. I think that's him.
Okay.
But
I remember
he-
you telling me that.
But I definitely saw an interview with him today where he said that he took summers off. So I think he was belting out 2 movies a year at this point. Sometimes as a subsidiary character and sometimes as a lead. And he's playing a series of unlikable characters. Because I think, A, that interests him, and B, that kind of fits his on-screen persona. But therefore, I think the difficulty is when he makes the leap to leading man, what do you do with that? Because he can't suddenly become Mr. Nice. Do you know what I mean? Like, how does that work? He's got to have a dark edge to him and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah,
and to some extent, Jack's back plays with that a little bit. And we can talk about that in the dissection of it. But the plot is mad. The plot is really mad.
It's really weird.
Because it's set up as...
It seems to me like the Jack the Ripper part of it is almost bolted on. There's no reason for it at all.
Well, it
could be any old serial killer. Like the actual meat of the movie
basically
has got
the movie,
nothing to do with Jack the Ripper.
The movie starts and 4 prostitutes have been killed in the LA area on exactly the same nights 100 years later than they were killed in Whitechapel in London in Jack the Ripper times, right? So there is a 5th killing about to take place, and if it's going to fit the bill, it has to be a prostitute who's pregnant in her rooms, because I believe it was Mary Kelly was the last killing, or Mary Kelly was the last killing in Jack the Ripper thing, and she was pregnant in a hotel room.
Cool, that's fast.
That's excellent. Look at that. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. And the Spader we meet at the beginning of the movie is possibly the most 80s character ever devised. He's got a Cubs hat, which seemed to be like the...
Was it a Cubs hat?
Yeah, it was. Which seemed to be like the de rigueur baseball team to like if you were...
Well, they're underdogs, right?
Right. But like, I think... Belushi always wore a Cub hat.
Well, Belushi's from Chicago.
I know he was, but then Brewster's Millions.
Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor wore a Cub.
But that movie was set in Chicago.
If you watch a bunch of 80s movies, people are wearing Cubs hats.
But it's just odd to have a character in LA. Who cares about the Cubs hat? I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm getting drawn.
No, I'm saying the most 80s dress when he starts out. He's got the Hawaiian shirt of the casual, laissez-faire,
he drives a
happy-go-lucky
a VW Beetle.
Young punk. Drives a beat-up.
Yeah, a proper beat-up.
A proper beat-up VW Beetle.
Is irreverent to authority.
Yeah.
But does good things.
But is a good person. Like, this is where they're playing with the Spader thing.
Very good person.
Very, very good. Like, he's late for his job at the free clinic.
Yeah.
Where he's volunteering while he's also a medical student. Because he is down at, like, a homeless shelter on the beach helping homeless people.
It looked more like the freeway, didn't it, like the beach?
No, they were all on sand.
I thought it was just dirt.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. You've interpreted
I'm just saying, like, beach is like, hey, we're on the beach. But it was more like, we're in a car
Think of
park.
Fletch, at the beginning of Fletch.
No,
I know.
Right, I get it. But there was more like a shanty town.
I love how my justification of the fact that the homeless people on the beach is like, think of Fletch. Like, Fletch was real. That's awesome. So anyway, he's a do-gooder. That's all we need to know. And he works in a free clinic.
Right.
And we see...
None of which has anything to do with the Jack the Ripper thing.
No, at all.
Or ever does.
But a lot in the plot doesn't.
Right.
So his boss is like a typical 80s aggressive ass chewer, right?
Yeah.
For no good reason, because he's a medical student who's like really good at his job, like has a great bedside manner, believes in what the free clinic is doing, like believes in Doctors Without Borders and Doctors for Homeless People and like he believes in all this stuff, right? And yeah, okay, he was late because he was down at the homeless shelter, but like when he gets there, he immediately starts work and buys cakes for all the secretary. Like, you would want him on your side. Like, the last thing you'd want to do would be to chew his ass out. But it's the 80s, and he's like casual throwaway Spader, so he has to have a boss who chews his ass. We meet everyone who works in the free clinic, blah, 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 blah. And we see a prostitute come in who's 2 weeks past the legal abortion
I missed that.
limit.
Yeah.
According to Shouty McShouterson, who runs the free clinic.
Right.
By the way, everyone is smoking. Like, everyone in this movie is smoking because we find out that Jack the Ripper is left-handed and smokes, so everyone in the movie is smoking.
Like,
So it could be a red herring.
But here's the thing, like, it is only in there for the... Can I just point out that, at this point, that some of the writing in this movie
It's
is so unbelievably
Crazy.
cack-handed. Like, the only reason that Jack the Ripper is a smoker is so that everybody who smokes can be
A suspect, a
a
red
suspect.
herring. Right.
Because you don't see Jack... First of all, you don't see Jack the Ripper do anything. You don't
Right.
see... And, like, how do they know that he's smoking? He just sort of sits there afterwards and has a smoke while he looks like... It's maybe he does it... Everything's exactly the same, including the part where he smokes, and he's like... It was just... It was a nonsense.
Right.
And it was such a nonsense that you were consistently and constantly confused for the whole movie, which in itself is a bit of a feat.
Right.
Because it's supposed to be like, kind of a whodunit, but you're so madly confused by what I can only assume when you think back on it. It seems almost like two films,
No,
two
can I tell you
completely
what it
different
was?
films put together.
Well, it was that, but
Like someone went, we've got a film about twin brothers.
wow, we haven't even got there yet.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So, what it was that the tone was wildly uneven.
Yeah. Okay.
So, from minute one, you've got the credit sequence with like 80s rock. Ba-da-da-da-da, 80s, 80s. And then slowly a shot comes up of like a murdered woman with like blood everywhere.
And a
the music and the music's
If
still
that's
like
significant,
right,
which it isn't.
Which it isn't. But the music is still like 80s rock. Spader is a groove town. Like that's the music over which we see like violent images of death. And, like the tone is weird all the way through.
Yeah, that's true.
Right to the very ending shot where a woman who has just been woken up in the middle of the night being attacked by this Jack the Ripper guy
Right.
immediately like looks doe-eyed at Spader as if they're about to kiss. Like the tone is just flying all over the place. It's completely bizarre. So Spader is playing our louche have-a-go hero. And we meet this prostitute, blah, 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 blah. Of course, skip to later on. And, also there's some hint that she was his prom date.
Yeah,
Like, that was
really
completely
weird.
ignored as well,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was like, yeah, you're right. It was because I'm thinking, oh, that would probably come up later when the cops suspect him of being the
No,
killer. But no,
didn't.
nothing,
No,
never
nothing
mentioned again.
happened at all.
He
So-
just looked at a picture of him, and we couldn't figure out whether she was just his high school prom date and then fell on hard times and became a prostitute, or whether James Spader just took a prostitute to high school prom. Because
Right.
that's never explained.
So,
Because she's way older than Spader.
right, even in the picture. So, he goes to her apartment. We don't really know why, but we see a picture of them at prom, so we assume he knows them. And finds the guy who also works in the free clinic, who's enormous, muscular, doesn't look like a doctor at all, is called Jack, heavy-handed red herring. And the implication is that initially he performed an abortion on her, but then we see him show up again just as Spader shows up again, and we find, surprise, surprise, the prostitute has had her throat slit and her baby removed and everything else. To which point Spader gives chase, and
Right.
they get to the free clinic, and Spader is strangled to death by Jack and then hung up.
Wait, sorry, just very quickly before we get this far, because I do think this is important.
Okay.
We should say whether we think people should watch this or not.
If you like bonkers 80s Spader thrillers, yes.
Yeah, I would say under those
Yeah,
very...
because we're going to spoil it.
Yeah, under those... Here's the thing. Under the very specific idea that you want to see James Spader in an 80s thriller that makes absolutely no sense,
Yeah.
then yes, you should watch the film. But I also think...
And it's
that
free
we
on
can-
Amazon Prime.
And we can... I guess we'll get to a point where we'll talk about the ending, right? Because I do think that for better or worse, you are all the way through the movie trying to figure out who the Jack the Ripper character is.
Right.
Because even though the movie's going, oh yeah, it's definitely this bloke, at no point are you convinced of this, not even vaguely.
No.
So you are kind of intrigued by that.
But by never-
I'm feeling. I feel, in other words, the movie makes you feel sleazy for caring about who Jack, because you know it's bollocks.
Right.
That whoever it is, it's just going to be some stupid red herring and will make no sense. And yet you find yourself caring. You're made grubby by Spader's movie. not
Right.
just in the ways that you're usually made grubby by watching a Spader movie.
No. No erections during this movie in any way.
No.
at all. So, I'll continue. So anyway,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Jack. No. I'm not spoiling anything by telling you that Jack, the big hunking workout doctor who's the size of a house, having strangled him, seems to conveniently have a rope lying around with a noose on it, and goes, "Well, I'm just going to string him up so it looks like he's committed suicide, having killed the prostitute." Like,
Right.
he has this all figured out, even though Spader wasn't meant to be at the prostitute's house. So, like, it's really odd how, like, he does it with no conscience either. The guy, like, strangles him with no conscience. He just goes, "Oh, damn, I've killed him. All right, I'll string him up with some rope." Like, it's really weird. And I guess that's meant to sell us on him being Jack the Ripper, I guess. But
Well, I think a lot of it. So, what happens then?
because by
is
the
you
end of the
need-
movie,
but here's the thing.
but by the end of the movie, there's literally no reason why he killed Spader. Like, there's no reason.
No, but that's what I'm saying. The whole thing is a delivery system. What is unbelievably bonkers about this film? And why... Okay, here's my theory. Here's a theory.
All right.
Do you remember that Kevin Smith story about him going to... I can't remember what movie he was going to make. He was going to make a movie, and the producer insisted that at the end there had to be a giant spider.
Oh, the Superman lives.
Right, okay, fine. And then Kevin Smith watches Wild Wild West, and at the end, and he goes,
There's a giant
right.
spider, right?
The only thing that makes sense is there was a movie, a screenplay about... Because, okay, just to get the quick. So what happens is, Spader dies. And you're like, really? Spader's going to die? That's mad.
Yeah.
And then Spader wakes up in a bed, and you're thinking, oh, come on, it was all a dream. And then, no, it wasn't all a dream. It's his twin brother. And you're thinking, oh, that's quite neat. In that you've been made to think, like, be annoyed by the usual movie trope of, oh, it was all a dream thing, because the lead's dead. But actually, no, it's his twin brother. So I think
And so basically the rest of the movie
is him trying to
is him
clear
trying
his
to
brother's name
clear
and
his
find out who
brother's
the guy
name,
is.
because the police go, he committed suicide having killed all these prostitutes, open and shut case, done. And then Spader's brother is like, but no, that's the whole movie.
So
Anyway,
think about this movie.
Right.
In this movie, James Spader comes across the scene of a crime, doctor, of a prostitute that he's had some kind of relationship with, catches some other guy, sleazy guy who works at the clinic there, they have some kind of a tussle, Spader dies, killed by this guy. Twin brother wakes up,
Right.
and twin brother, through his growing connection with his own dead brother's memory, pieces together what his brother saw that night,
Yeah,
and therefore comes across the identity of a serial killer, right? That's a movie. No, but wait.
No, but the big clue in this, the big thing that's meant to put this guy away,
Right.
is that Spader's estranged juvenile delinquent twin saw his face maybe in a dream. That's really the whole thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
So my point is, and then everything that happens after that, where the police listen to the twin brother, but only because he's insane, and then they start thinking, well, our only real evidence is an eyewitness, and clearly the eyewitness could have seen the twin brother, who's a lot dodgier, who has like a bit of a crazy rap, and maybe we're after the wrong guy here. And then that's borne out by, Spader, good Spader's mates turn up and go, that couldn't have been him. So all the while, he's trying to figure it out by staying true to this idea.
The weirdest cameo in a movie ever, the tall blonde friend
that's
that
so
they
weird.
pull out of nowhere.
He won a competition, or... do you know what I mean? He provided the crew with fish finger sandwiches.
He was Jeff, I've won a competition cameo. That's who he was.
Yeah. So, in that movie, the whole movie's about...
No, he was the producer's son. That's who he was. He was
It's
the
possible.
producer's son.
It's possible. Anyway, in the movie, it's all about a twin brother and his connection to his twin, his dead twin, figuring out the identity of a serial killer. And
Through the help
that's,
of hypnotist Robert Picardo.
Right, but my point is, that's the movie, right? And then that movie gets dropped onto a producer's desk, and the producer, who's barmy, possibly friends with, who goes on road trips with Spader,
Right.
to sex jacuzzis of the Midwest or whatever. And this producer, for whatever reason,
I
at
want
the
a movie
moment,
where Spader
at the
goes
moment
to
the
sex
script,
jacuzzis.
right, at the moment the script lands on his desk, the producer is absolutely mad for Jack the Ripper.
Right.
He's just read a Jack the Ripper book. He's thinking about
Right.
touring
Yeah.
the sex jacuzzis of the East End, right?
Right.
Whatever.
With-
He's mad for Jack the Ripper. He says,
Yeah.
great movie, I love it, the twin brother, the serial killer, the whole thing. Why doesn't the serial killer recreate the crimes of Jack the Ripper? To which the screenwriter went, okay, I mean, like, fine, doesn't make any difference. Like, he's just a serial killer. That's not the point of the movie.
It's the doctor link, I guess, because they're all
Oh,
doctors.
well, yeah, I mean, kind of, maybe, but it doesn't really need to be that, because there's all these specifics about, like, the fact that, he's exactly recreating all the bit at the beginning, like the opening 5 minutes where they go,
Yeah.
oh yeah, Jack the Ripper, he's recreating the crimes exactly
Right.
on 100 years after
None
they
of that
happened.
happened. Right,
None
right.
of it makes any...
Right.
The movie completely forgets about all that.
Right.
In favour of James Spader chasing after the bloke that killed his brother in a dream. Which is an interesting, albeit weird enough, story on its own. But
James
it's got
Spader-
nothing to do with Jack the Ripper.
Who's made the decision that although both brothers are inherently good people at this point in their lives,
Yeah.
because one runs a shoe store quite happily and relaxed,
Which is so weird. I mean, again,
and runs a shoe store and has like a pet cat.
that was the producer's idea because it's so weird.
right.
He solves the crime because he works in a shoe store.
Yeah.
What?
It's so convoluted and mad, but it's also genius in its own way.
Genius is strong.
So Spader, who has like a cat and works at a
Coke-fueled
shoe
and
store,
mad, possibly.
right? But he's made the delinquent brother simply so that later on he can do a dodgy deal at the back of a sex theatre in order to buy a gun.
That I think is
In
the
order
most...
to buy a gun.
I mean, if you're going to make Spader a vigilante, you have to have him buy a gun from the back room of a sex shop.
Yeah. Where the most, hello, I'm an 80s actress playing a prostitute, by the way, is sat in the corner. And Spader gives her nary a look. He's all obsessed with buying a gun. From, I think, another cameo of either the producer or the director or one of their friends.
No, again, I think they gave out cameos to whoever helped them out on the movie, whoever provided the... That bloke probably provided the whiskey, do you know what I mean?
Right. But it looked like he had painted on stubble. It didn't look like real stubble. It looked
can't say I
like
noticed
makeup
that.
stubble. No, it looked like
Okay,
makeup
okay.
stubble. That's why he stuck out so poorly. The other guy, the tall blonde guy, stuck out just because he couldn't act. I mean, he couldn't act his way out of
Maybe
that.
they'd only rented the sex shop for an afternoon, and so they just like drafted in the real sex shop owner. Right?
when given-
because the guy they booked to play the part got sick.
Right. Spader probably
the sex
wanted.
jacuzzi party the night before.
Spader probably wanted to play the part as well and do a third part in like heavy makeup and stuff.
I mean, like Spader does like an Eddie Murphy thing where he plays like 8 parts, each one sleazier than the other.
Definitely. So, but beyond that, there's no evidence other than he knows where to buy a gun that he is like a ne'er-do-well. He's just like a 9 to 5.
Yeah, he's got a scar, and he hasn't unpacked his boxes in his flat. Very suspicious.
Right, but beyond that, he's fine.
He was he was in the army. And he was a medic.
Right. Well, that's the tie in the whole doctor thing. Like,
Sure,
everyone
sure.
has to be a doctor. Like, everyone they come across
But
is
it's
a
like it's so weird because he's a bloke with he's like a bad guy in a fast blue Corvette who's seen action, and then there he is working in his red polo neck in a shoe store. It's so completely incongruous. Of all you could pick, and the movie's so completely mad.
Right.
Like in the end, like, there's this whole painful thing with the shoes, right? Oh well, I work in a shoe store, so I recognise these shoes. So I recognise that's the. But and you're thinking, how are the shoes going to tie in? All the way from the point you see Spader working in a shoe, or find out that he works in a shoe store. Thinking, how are the shoes going to tie in? How are the shoes going to tie in? The answer is, in another I remember my brother's murder in a dream moment, he sees the shoes. You go, oh fine, he saw the shoes, and then pans up. And there's the bloke's face. What done it? You're thinking, so what was the deal with the shoes then? He was just going to see the guy's face. What does it matter?
Well, the shoes-
It could have been literally anything.
The shoes indicate that it wasn't Jack who showed up at the woman's apartment. Because there's this whole woman, he gets in cahoots with a woman, of course, even though she's
okay, yeah.
she's very odd. She's kind of like budget Jamie Lee Curtis.
Doesn't prove that Jack didn't show up at the apartment. Why couldn't he have been wearing those shoes? What difference does it make?
Oh, because when we see someone stalking around her apartment,
Right.
sleazing on her through the blinds,
Yeah.
we already know that Jack killed Spader. We've already seen Jack like sweating and panicking about the fact that his brother's on the scene.
Right.
So we already like suspect Jack. But then all of a sudden we're not seeing the killer's face. We're seeing the killer's shoes. We're seeing his more shoe play. We see the shoes, but then we see like the latex hands and all the rest of it. So all of a sudden you're like, there's a third person here, because if it was Jack, we just see Jack, because we've already seen Jack and we already...
All right, you are actually kind of winning me around to the shoe thing. But they definitely... It was so...
Oh yeah, it was ludicrous. Yeah, totally bonkers.
If you're going to solve the shoe thing, fair enough, I understand why the shoe thing needs to exist. But solving it by having him see the shoes and then pan up and see the guy's face. But like, well, there wasn't much in the way of detective work there, was there?
I will tell you this right now. The writer came up with the ending, like the writer read some book where it's like, if you're going to do a detective thing, come up with who did it first and then go back to the beginning and like work it out throughout, right?
Right.
Because that's how you write like whodunits.
Okay.
So the writer figured that out and he was like, well, it's this guy. Right, so he started writing him at the beginning and went, well, we can't have him about too much because like that's going to like labour the point, and I need to set up all these other red herrings, so I'll set up all these red herrings. And he got into the third act and was like...
Just finished?
Yes, thank you very much.
And was like, shoot, so how do I make it that guy again? And then like went, oh yeah, shoe store, we've established he works in a shoe store, let's make it about shoes. Like he's just... It strikes me as a 2 a.m, what the fuck decision that this writer made, because he got himself in a pickle. And he threw in the last scene of him going around Picardo's house to just
that
like...
was super weird.
No, but he did that just so that the audience is like, wait, it's Picardo? Like... And then the audience would run through their minds, but how can it be Picardo? Picardo doesn't know any of the people who went to the free clinic. And
Which is what we did, to be fair.
Right.
We were genuinely surprised that it was.
You saw Picardo at the very beginning of the movie and went, it's him. Like, you just assumed because it was Picardo.
Yeah, that's... Well, no, it's because the whole thing, like, he was... They were, you know, reasonably clever with the red herrings, because they had made sure he was smoking,
and a left
he was
hand.
a bit weird, there was no reason for him to be in there, he was also a doctor, he was, like, looking at Polaroids and hypnotising people and being weird. And when Spader turns up at his office in the middle of the night, and he's like... He says, go back to bed, mother, like in a kind of a weird psycho reference, kind of.
Right, yeah.
And you're thinking, oh, bloody hell, it's Picardo. But it wasn't. I mean, it doesn't even... It was so unbelievably
I actually
unsatisfying.
think, not just Picardo, not just Psycho, I would say Strangers on a Train, because he's wearing the robe and the whole thing. And it's like this big posh house. I would say it's more like that. But
Okay.
anyway.
No, I was just saying the whole idea of having somebody living with their mother being, like, suspect.
Yeah, of course. No, but Picardo, even the way he smoked and the way he looked at suspects through the glass like he was salivating or masturbating or something, like even that set him up as the reddest of herrings at the very beginning.
It was deeply, deeply strange, because on the one hand, you find yourself being annoyed by how confusing it is and how utterly bonkers the whole plot is, but despite yourself going, but I need to know. It's like, what was the thing I watched where I ended up watching it to the end? Oh, The Killing, the Swedish TV show. It was like 18 episodes long. And by episode 8, me and Teresa hated absolutely everybody. We hated the series.
Right.
We hated it with a fiery passion, this show. It was so dumb. And yeah, we had to, because we had to know who done it. So we ended up sitting for another 9 episodes of this crap just to find out who did it. And
I
for
felt a
anybody
bit like that with Broadchurch, but anyway.
Yeah, me too. Oh God, like every time David Tennant doesn't shave and looks up into the distance, I can't handle it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fucking weak. Anyway, yes, you find yourself compelled to know who, even though it's
No, but even though when you find out at the very end of the movie, you find out at the end of the movie and the credit roll, you still go, so wait a minute. Like, you still go, there are more holes in this than
why? What's the point?
Right. No, but there's more
Why
holes
did he
in
throw
this
it all away?
than
Because
a large colander made for straining
other colanders.
Yeah.
You'd have to say...
Colanders invented for straining Swiss cheese. That's how many holes there are in there.
All right, okay. We'll just Yeah. Okay.
There's more holes in this movie than in James Spader's saxophone knob.
Yeah, and there are quite a few holes in the saxophone knob. Yeah, well, we'll have to talk about the exact nature of Spader's sleaze in this movie, because I feel like we should have like a sleaze watch.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? In every Spader movie, like, how is he sleazy in this movie?
He's sleazy for lots of ways, but one of the main ways, we get not one, but two gratuitous, over-the-top, blue-lit, in-the-bed, naked tresses.
Yeah, that was weird. Mm-hmm. There was more like ogling of Spader than there was of the bird.
Yeah.
Because
the bird wasn't particularly
well, no, but that's what I'm saying. So, one of my problems with the movie is if he is like going to all this trouble to meticulously recreate the Jack the Ripper crimes, he's done. There's a bloke in prison for it. Instead of like buggering off into the whatever the serial killer equivalent of the Sunset is, a basement, you know, with nailed animal heads to the wall, whatever. To like masturbate furiously over his Polaroids
and dirty panties.
Right, or like move to Phoenix and just do the whole thing all over again.
Right.
Whatever.
But Phoenix is the perfect place to do it.
Well, exactly, yeah. Instead, he like goes to like, I'll ruin it all by sleazing over the woman that works at the clinic who isn't particularly attractive.
Well, that's what drove me nuts about the whole thing. Right? You're in LA. There's 1 billion and one women. You've killed a whole bunch of prostitutes.
Are you giving advice on how to serial kill better? Because I feel like that's a bit weird.
No, but that's...
If I was a serial killer,
But
I'd kill better looking people.
No, I'm not saying better looking. I'm saying you're in LA, there's a whole bunch of women. Why go for the one who works in the free clinic with you? In fact...
Well, I guess the idea is he's supposed to... But that's the thing.
No.
Presumably, the justification is he's obsessed with her. But again, there's no... I wish you would do the volume thing. There's no...
Yeah, but she's looking at you. Who's the one behind you?
Well, she can get... There's like 1 billion other places to sit. There's no indication at any point that he even, like, fancies her a bit. Like, not even slightly.
No, true. But. None of it makes, like... Unless your plan was to set up either Spader or Jack all along. Unless you were like, well, look, there are plenty of red herrings lying around here, like a
yeah, because you thought he knew
massacre.
about the twin to like set that up, but that.
What I'm saying is, unless you know about that, why only kill women who came into the free clinic? Like, why kill people where you work? Like, why not, like, go along Hollywood Boulevard and pick up anybody that massacre? The only one you need to know is the pregnant one at the end. That's the only one that is relevant to the Jack the Ripper
It's
thing.
because they need to suspect Spader and therefore his twin for most of the movie, the police. So one of the reasons they go with is, oh, well, they're all been... But you're right. If you actually think about, I'm a serial killer, I work at a free clinic.
Right.
Like, you're right. If you was to set up Spader, go trawl the tent city, the shanty town that Spader works. He works in 5 of them. It was all over the
Not only
place.
that.
It was totally barred.
Not only that, but you've done your Jack the Ripper thing, and like you say, why then do you double down? You go, oh, well, I got away with it, I've set it up, let's go double down and let's go sleaze over the other woman who works in my free clinic. Like, it's bonkers. It's totally bonkers.
The whole movie's mostly James Spader being chased by the cops. And
If we're talking sleaze watch,
yeah, let's talk sleaze watch.
sleaze watch,
Spader sleaze.
how about the sleeveless pink rouge v-neck?
Yeah, that was a bold
That's
choice.
pretty sleazy.
And I know it ended up being blue, but when he first drove up in his car, it looked like a bright, shiny purple knob. That's what it looked like when he drove up.
Sleaze watch again in this movie. Almost the entire soundtrack is either vibes or saxophone.
Yeah, every time Spader moves, a saxophone plays.
Yeah.
In a really like sleazy strip club.
The most
kind of a
sleazy way, yeah.
Yeah. The point where we felt that Spader's knob may actually be a saxophone.
Yeah.
That every time he moves,
He buys a
wind
gun.
moves through his saxophone knob.
He buys a gun
and plays
from
like
a sex
melancholy
dungeon.
/ sleazy.
He buys a gun from a sex
He
dungeon.
buys a
out
gun
the
from a
back.
sex dungeon. He's got like a sleazy scar
very
by his eye.
sleazy
That's
scar.
probably a sex injury.
Yeah, it's probably a sex injury. It's probably where he was.
Probably trying to shag a washing
fucked in the
machine.
face or something by one
he
of
was
his inmates.
yeah, a washing machine tried to shag him in the face.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
It's going to be a sleazier machine than a washing machine.
It depends what you do with the washing machine.
Well,
doesn't it?
true. I think he was probably penetrated in the temple by a dildo or something.
wasn't that. It's more a glancing blow. It was more like, get off me, you sex fiend.
Oh yeah,
injury.
I guess
You know what I
flapped
mean?
around the face by a massive.
But it's definitely. I mean, they gave him an earring, and they really. I tell you what, that. As far as the producers were concerned, that leather jacket did a lot of heavy lifting.
It did,
in terms of how do we make him look like a bad guy?
Yeah.
We'll give him a leather jacket.
And a one earring. And
Yeah.
then with the
Which
other...
he threw on the floor. Because what I liked about that was it was so blatantly, he's like, take your coat off. And he takes his coat off and he just throws it on the floor. And you're thinking, that was Spader's idea of like a character note. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, my character wouldn't hang his coat up. Do you know what I mean? He'd just throw it on the floor.
So,
because think about the floor of a police station. Would you throw your jacket on the floor of a police station?
If I was Spader's sleazier twin brother, I would.
I mean, you're basically talking blood, dead cockroaches, and spit.
Right, and Picardo's ooze.
And Picardo's ooze is what covers the floor of police stations.
Picardo, who just convenently happened to be a hypnotist as well.
That was great.
Oh, and we haven't mentioned, and Kim would never forgive us if we didn't, the two cops that are on his trail are basically Miami Vice.
Yeah, they are Miami Vice.
Right.
Yeah.
No, well, there's three cops on the trail. There's the guy who wears like all white and a slightly pale paisley tie, who thinks he's like the hippest cop in Cool Town, and then you've got the evil-looking dude who always plays a grubby evil guy, except in this movie, who had the Miami Vice neon blue shirt and the horrible jacket that was white and black spots or whatever. Yeah. And then
did he exist?
Yeah, he existed.
I don't remember him.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
the evil-looking dude.
Was he standing like in front of the television?
No, he was with the other cop.
Does he follow you around?
No, dude, he was
during
definitely.
the week.
This isn't funny. And then the last one was literally like Schlubby McSchlubcop.
No, I remember Schlubby McSchlub.
He had like the ruffled hair and the crumpled
No, I
jacket
genuinely don't remember the black and white spotted coat.
He made the. Well, it wasn't spotted. It was like dashed, like little, like it was like black and white all over. Like just think Miami Vice, like with the sleeves rolled, slightly spangly.
I thought you were talking about like a black and white. You were just talking about a guy that I didn't see in the movie, and I got concerned. That's it.
He was the partner to the cop.
No, I know who you're talking about.
Right.
I know
the guys who hilariously ran into Spader's brother's apartment and like threw their guns around like they were in the 80s.
Oh, that was
or something.
Great. Yeah, that was good.
But I also liked Shambling McShamblecop, because at the very end when he came in, ruffled cop, when he came in, there was a chair at the end of the table. When Spader and the Bird were there at the table, there was a chair at the end of the table, but he made the character choice to like eerily slide his ass onto the table and sit on the table with like his hand on his hip.
Oh yeah,
like
that was
weird. There was a chair right at the end of the table he could have used, but instead he cooched up onto the table.
That
with
was
his,
right.
Yeah, it was very odd. But there was lots of character choices in this movie where people were like, I'm going to play it this way. Yeah. And you knew the writer was like, well, the guy who did it, he's all evil and shouty at the beginning. So I immediately wrote him off, because I'm like, evil and shouty, it's not him.
Yeah.
But then in the middle of the movie...
Because he's evil and shouty, and he's got it in for space.
And he's going for space. But then in the middle of the movie, he's like creepily nice to Jack, who we all think did it.
Oh yeah, he was like weird.
He was like, by the way, you're doing great work.
Go and have fun.
Yeah, and I was like, he did it. Like immediately.
Yeah, because presumably what he's saying in that scene is, another murderer. Thank you very much.
Do you like something else? Or you good?
I think we're okay.
I think we're okay. Yeah.
You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, he's basically saying, oh good, another murderer.
Yeah.
How delightful.
Thank you for killing Spader. Yeah. 2 murderers in one free clinic in the middle of LA. That's a bit.
Well, I guess he was like thanking him for killing Spader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only that, but he then showed up like he had no brains either. Because when Spader's twin brother emerged, he then went around his apartment to strangle him as well. I'm like, what? You've already convinced people that Spader killed himself. Like, if Spader's brother like strangles himself as well, it's just bananas. It's like, who believes that?
Yeah, because for a while the movie took the whole I saw my brothers. It took like 20 minutes for the cops to go, yeah, we don't really think that he saw his brother's killer in a dream, but we think it might be the brother. And that made sense. But for a while, it did want to have its cake and eat it. It did want the cops to be going, I wonder if there's anything to this. I saw my twin brother murdered by somebody else in a dream.
Yeah.
Because Because their standard operating procedure was, oh, so your story is you saw your brother murdered in a dream.
Yeah.
I see. We'll hypnotise
And
you.
by the way, the
Let's hypnotise you.
eyewitness, which the shouty cop kept bringing up, it was like, they had an eyewitness, god damn it, that one. She was the woman at the beginning, and Spader came out and, first of all, she saw two people run for the room. Secondly,
Wait, who's the eyewitness?
The eyewitness they had was the woman who lived across the road. Thank you. The woman who lived across the hall from the woman who was murdered. And when
Really?
Spader comes up, well, who else was the eyewitness?
Oh, I thought for some reason it was
Jack.
that Jack had called it in or whatever. But you're right, that makes sense.
But no, because they don't even reveal that he did the abortion until the end of the movie. So the cops, it's not like Jack was like, well, I was around there performing an illegal abortion, and then in burst Spader. Like, the only eyewitness they had was the blonde woman who walked across the hall, who Spader said, there's been a murder, call 911.
No, you're right. I wasn't thinking.
Why would the eyewitness go, it was Spader, if he went, call 911? Like, it doesn't make any sense, does it?
Well, I guess the eyewitness, we didn't find out what the eyewitness said, only the eyewitness saw Spader at the scene of the crime.
Right, but if you're that
And they all went, and he was covered in the blood, and he killed himself.
What I'm saying is it's yet another huge plot hole.
Oh, it was balmy.
Yeah.
From start to finish, it was balmy. And yet, kind of compellingly balmy. But there were, if I was going to be honest about it,
Yeah.
I would say we're making it sound more bonkers and interesting than it was, because it was kind of slow.
There was a point in the middle of the movie where I was
"Oh,
like, hurry
God."
up.
And there's like too much, it's like,
Yeah, for an hour and a half movie, it felt like 2 hours.
yeah, it did feel
It
too
definitely
long.
felt like
too
2
long.
hours.
It wasn't.
Because the writer got to the middle of the script and went, there's really nothing for anybody to do here.
Well, it seems like if they concentrate on the whole twin brother thing, then there might have been a bit of meat there, a bit of more of the psychiatrist.
Also-
Like, is there anything to this? Am I just going crazy?
Also,
blah, blah, blah.
I'm gonna blame Spader. And I'll tell you why.
All right.
I'll tell you
all
why.
right, bold move.
The opening Spader, the opening brother, right,
Yeah.
is this like charismatic, funny, whatever.
He's actually curiously dull as the bad guy, right?
Right. As the bad guy, he's made the decision to like speak quietly and like look off into the distance a lot and wear a v-neck.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to be magnetic. You can't just decide to be magnetic.
And the problem with that is because the twin brothers' detective work, such as it is the main driving force of like Act 2 and 3. Him not being crazy, like had he been crazy, had he been like wild-eyed mad Spader, it would have driven.
That's true, and it would have
the
fitted
move.
in more with the idea of him being, a bad apple, like a bad egg,
Right.
had to join the army and got in
Yeah.
trouble. Like, that would have, but instead they were going for the more like James Dean 50s bad boy. I'm leaning on my my fast car, which by the way, how the fuck do I afford this given I work in a shoe store?
Yeah.
That whole, that's what they were going for, like a James Dean, Marlon Brando 50s
Mumbly.
magnetism thing.
Yeah.
Because you're right, it's like, what do we do with Spader? And that's what they were trying. But yeah, him kind of being mumbly and quiet and just like trying to look moody and magnetic, there was way too much of that.
Yeah.
Because either you are moody and magnetic while you're doing other things, but you can't go, I'm going to turn up in this movie, I'll just be moody and magnetic, that's my plan. That's not a plan.
Yeah. But it's still a bold and interesting decision, the whole movie.
There was a couple of, the whole, him waking up in the bed after his brother gets murdered, and you think it's all been a dream and actually it's a twin brother and the whole movie shifts. That was neat. I like that. That was a
Yeah.
properly nice, I've not seen that before. That's quite cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I thought was like cool about it. What else was good about it? I mean, really, if we're being honest.
Personally, I got a huge kick out of how many cliches could they throw in a bucket and like mix around with some good.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't.
No, as each of the cops and then the psychologist played by Picardo and the people in the free clinic.
You're right. I did enjoy the. I did enjoy the red herring.
You had like the shouty McShouterson free clinic guy, and then shouty McShouterson cop guy, and then you had his split 50-50. And then you had the three cops. Schlub, Miami Vice, and impeccably dressed guy,
right.
And then you had Picardo being the crazy hypnotist.
Yeah.
I got enough of a kick out of that it drove me through at least Act 1 and Act 3. Act 2 was dull, like nothing happened.
I don't know. I mean, I have to say, like, I know what you mean about when people, but that's when people do genre as well, and I don't. Like, Picardo should have been a bit more balmy. Like,
it needed a balm. It needed more balm.
One of the problems with red herring, whether it's TV shows, actually the killing is a good. What I was talking about before is a good example.
Right.
One of the problems with your red herring shows is your characters can't be real. They can't even be caricatures.
Right.
They have to be. It might have been me for like ages, and like that can be quite fun.
Right.
But that means you've got Robert Picardo, who I know can like act up a storm. Can properly overact. Playing oh yes, I'm a Jack the Ripper expert, and I'm also a hypnotist.
With who's left-handed.
He
and
may
smoke.
as well have had like a top hat and been like the big train evil hypnotist. You know what I mean? Like that could have been him.
Yeah.
He could have had so much fun with it, but he wasn't allowed to because he had to spend the whole movie going, "Oh, it could be me."
Yeah.
You know. And the same with the free clinic doctor guy. Like they all could have had, and Spader.
Yeah.
Even. They all could have had more fun, but they were all spending the whole time just. Everyone's fixated on the red herring, as if like it matters in a film where James Spader is investigating whether his brother is a serial killer based on a dream he had. Like that is a mad film, and they just doubled down on that because you're right. We've got the biggest mad sleaze bag in Hollywood as our lead.
Yeah,
a totally insane plot idea. Plus, we throw in Jack the Ripper for no good reason for a bit of frankly disgusting colour.
But I would say
let's dial it up. But instead
I would say
I wonder who the killer is.
And maybe this will change the more Spader we watch. But I would say it was a 3 out of 5 for Spader.
For Spader, for a Spader movie.
Well, no, for Spader leading, surrounded by cliche McCliche films.
No. I think you're right. I think we have to establish a Spader scale here because we're talking about.
If he runs into a porno theatre and there's a guy with a sleaze mustache who sells him a gun in front
I tell you why I liked the bit where he ran into the sex shop. What I liked was essentially because he drove there with the girl, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, she has got no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
So they're on their way to confront possibly a serial killer.
Yeah.
And as far as she's concerned, Spader's just
nipped
stopped the
off to a
car
movie theatre,
and wandered into a sex shop and been in there for half an hour.
Yeah.
So she's basically thinking, who's this guy?
Right.
He's basically stopping off for a quick hand shandy.
But what I like
on
about
the way to confronting a serial
is
killer.
when he gets
that I like.
When he gets in the car and says, "Oh, I bought a gun," which he admits freely, right? My first thought would be, that's a really odd excuse for being. Like, my thought would have been, by gun, do you mean a suitcase
is that a
full of
euphemism? Is that a euphemism? I bought a gun, eh?
But you've got to think that that's Spader's idea. That he was like, well, we'll just pull up on Hollywood and Vine and go into a porno thing.
No, they probably went. He probably was like walking past a script meeting, and they went, "Where's he going to buy a gun?" The Spader went, "You can get good guns in the back of sex shops." And the script writer went, "Cheers, James." That was a good bit. You're right. The sudden plot shift, the twin waking up, that was good. Spader stopping off to buy a gun from the sex shop
and leaving the
porno theatre and leaving the. No, it was a sex shop. It was a porno theatre as well, but it was a sex
it was
shop.
both.
It was both.
It was
doubled. Yeah. Leaving the girl outside to wonder why are we stopping at a sex store.
Yeah.
That was really good. I liked all the red herring bits. And
the wild shifts in tone were fun.
Yeah, thank you very much. I liked that every time Spader moved anywhere, the saxophone music and wind chimes had to play.
Yeah, it was the weirdest score.
Yeah,
like it was a
deeply
bananas score.
It was like he was.
That's true.
And I liked while the sleazy saxophone was playing, Spader sitting on the balcony stroking his midnight black cat, looking unbelievable.
A cat, which, by the way, doesn't show up before that or after it, is only in that sequence for no reason at all. Yeah.
Can we, if we're going to do this, can we run a competition on what we consider the sleaziest scene? Like Spader at his sleaziest in that movie. And I would have to say stroking the midnight black cat on the balcony while saxophone music played. That's my sleazy.
The only
Spader
reason
vibe.
that I would not... I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But the only
You can have
reason
a different sleazy
No,
vibe,
no,
that's
I would
fine.
knock that off, is it was the only sequence in which he didn't sport a rouge-coloured V-neck sleeveless shirt. Which I have to say, if we're going for sleazy moments, it either has to be the V-neck with the obscene chest hair, or waking up in his tighty whities and not really minding the camera lingering on his balls.
No, which again I suspect was probably Spader's idea. Yeah, can you get him really close on my balls? No. Phil, you can come closer. No, I'm all right here. I'm all right here, James.
That's fine. I'm going to wear really small pants.
Phil, come closer. No, really, James.
I'm going to wear the smallest pair of white underwear.
Look, I can close up from back here. No, come in closer, Phil.
So I would have to say
But you're right. I think a 3 out of 5.
it's either Spader blue lit in bed shirtless, or it's V-neck, just the V-neck in general.
Fair
is
enough.
the sleaziest outfit.
Don't get me wrong. They were sleazy. For me, it's definitely
the
the
black
stroking the
cat.
midnight black cat on the balcony while the saxophone music played. For me.
Yeah,
for sure.
okay, that's fine. 3 out of 5 on the Spader scale, and probably out of his whole career, though, it's probably only 2.5 on the sleaze scale.
I'd give. Oh, in terms of sleaze, I'd give it
Because
maybe a 2.
it's not Secretary, it's not Crash. He's not fucking any leg wounds.
No.
So, I love that I get to say that about Spader. It just makes me happy. So let's now go over to our email.
We got an email.
We got an email.
We
did
barely even done an episode and someone wrote an email.
We got an email, so let's see if we get any more emails. No, this is from John Cribbs. And I love that name, Mr. Cribbs. Very excited for your upcoming Spader-based podcast. A few years back, I wrote a piece on Supernova, and then he provides the link at thepinksmoke.com/frustratingSupernova1.htm, in which I tried to categorize Spader's various CADs. This is what I came up with, but if a more specific grid could be created, I'm sure you dudes could do it. Spader roll tallies. Scumbags, less than 0, keys to Tulsa. Dipshits, endless love and bad influence. That's great, yeah.
Thanks very much.
Dangerous psychopaths, the new kids, Jack's back, and 2 days in the valley. I'm not sure he was a dangerous psychopath in Jack's back.
No.
I think he's set up to be. but I
Isn't he
don't-
one in that Keanu Reeves movie? Isn't that?
The Watcher,
Yeah.
he doesn't have that listed here.
I think that's dangerous psychopath. I don't think he's a dangerous psychopath.
No, Keanu Reeves is the dangerous psychopath in that. He's the detective following him, who's also on edge and weird, but he's the detective.
Oh, we have to watch that.
Yeah, we do. The Watcher. It's very
Fine,
good. Douche nozzles in Mannequin. I love his performance in Mannequin.
But does he play a douche nozzle? He may be, just playing a really good douche nozzle.
Yeah, I think he is, but he has his hair slicked over from about here all the way over, and is playing a very Python-esque kind of little round glasses, nerdy, officious, slimy corporate boss. So yeah, kind of a douche nozzle. And then Giant Pricks, Pretty in Pink, Baby Boom, and the Rachel Papers. And then Weird Pervos, Sex Lies and Videotapes, Storyville, and Crash.
And Secretary.
I would add Secretary to that. Anyway, he says, look forward to listening, John Cribbs. So I think he's passing
there's
the
some good
gauntlet
ideas,
to
yeah.
us
There's some
and
good ideas
saying,
there.
where would we funnel Spader's roles into this tower?
I'd say this is like.
Is this the nicest we've seen Spader be in a movie? He essentially plays two fairly decent characters. Even if they have bad pasts, they have wound up in life as fairly nice guys.
Yes, I'd say he's playing a bona fide hero. Two different kinds of hero, and he's supposed to be like the do-gooder, like the white knight and the black knight kind of thing. Like the do-gooder and the bad boy, but they're both good people. The white witch and the black, the white witch
He's
and the
as
black.
good in this, if not better, than, say, Riggs in Lethal Weapon, who's also a dangerous psychopath with a lot of mental issues who...
I feel like
It's
comparing
also
his
a
performance
hero.
in this movie to Lethal Weapon is slightly...
No, I'm not. I'm saying in terms of damaged characters, he's at least...
No, but he's
as
not,
much-
because he's got there's no damage. Like, I
Well, he
know
was
he's got a scar on the
he
eye.
was a tearaway who then had to go into the army to avoid going to prison. And he hasn't spoken to his brother in 2 years.
He was like a member of a... I don't buy... They're like, oh, he used to be in a street gang. What street gang runs with Spader?
The,
You know what I mean?
the pink V-neck
The sex
crowd.
criminals.
the sex perv pink V-neck crowd. What is... I think...
I hang around the street corners going... Ugh.
This may be like he plays the hero and the anti-hero is what he plays. He plays like
He's not playing an anti-hero.
the good. Well, he is because he's not conventional, but he ends up being the hero. He ends up saving the woman, even though essentially.
Is that one anti-hero?
Yeah, he's an anti-hero because he doesn't look like a hero, he doesn't act like a hero, but then he acts like a hero in the end.
I mean, maybe. I
would say he's
I
an
just think-
anti-hero. I wouldn't say he was a dangerous psychopath.
No, I definitely wouldn't. No, I just...
I would say he's the hero and the anti-hero.
He's playing like someone who's very good and someone who's supposed to be bad but isn't really.
learning to be better.
Yes, there we go.
Because he's taken a role in a shoe
Yeah.
store, and he's got a little cat, and he's putting his
The
life
whole
back
film would be
together.
very different if he was played by Wallace Shawn.
Right.
I buy Wallace Shawn working in a shoe store
Yeah.
and then solving a crime involving his dead twin brother, who works as a doctor in a free clinic.
Yeah.
Like, those characters make sense to me.
Yeah.
Not that Wallace Shawn would have run with the street gang, but
Right.
you get my point.
Yeah.
Like, what
Unless
has
that street gang was a bunch of nerdy nebbishes who had a love for James Joyce poetry or something.
Yeah.
Then you can
sitting
see.
around arguing about Joyce.
Then you can see Sean being.
Putting on impromptu performances and waiting for Godot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Underneath dark bridges in the middle of the night.
Yeah, or having like mass anxiety because of a typo in his resume or something.
Yeah. Just generalised, non-specific mass anxiety attacks in crowded places.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
that's
he
how
has-
they are in a gang. Like, they make everybody else a bit nervous, but everyone else a bit on edge. That's their gang. Like
Yeah.
the on-edge crew.
And if we're recasting Wallace Shawn in this role, does the bad brother have the lisp that he has in Princess Bride?
No, I'd probably give that to the good brother.
You'd give that to the good brother?
Yeah, the one who dies.
Flip it.
Yeah.
Flip it. I like it. Excellent. So that was our first email. Please keep them coming.
Yeah.
We want your lists of Spader movies. We want your
Or just questions,
rundowns.
Spader
We want your questions and things like that.
Spader observations.
Observations. We got a lot.
Recommendations. Spader recommendations would do fine. What should we watch if we
We
want to watch a
did
Barney
post
Spader
some.
movie?
We do need to bring. We do need to bring up quickly the After Movie Diner Facebook page, because we've had some activity on there, which is always excellent. And that is from Andy Lunn. And Andy Lunn says, fantastic news. In 2014, my wife and I embarked on a sleaze of Spader season, which was highly enjoyable. We took in about 20 movies, which is documented on my Letterboxd page. Some were really good, some were really shit, many were fucking hilarious. A particular favourite was Driftwood. Spader is found washed up on a beach and some psycho bird looks after him. It's like a shit misery, but an absolute must-see. The best thing about Spader season is watching the change in his hair, various dye jobs and dodgy syrups along the way. I'm so glad you're doing this, I cannot wait.
Let's try Driftwood then.
Yeah, another great comment there by Andy Lunn. Thanks for that, guys. And hang on a second. Scrolling through, and on the group page we just had Taya Duval said James Spader gives me everlasting life. Kimberly Taylor says he can slither near me any time of the day. Christopher Powell says yes, me and Dee Shaw's favourite actor. Joe Yannick says amazing. Doc Paul Croson posted a picture of the movie The Hole, and then sure, he wasn't in it, but he sure as hell fucked it. And then Tyler Barger said doing Tough Turf, question mark.
What's Tough Turf?
It's like 80s bullies in a small town school attack Spader and Robert Downey Jr. It's not as good as that sounds.
Still.
I've seen it a couple of times.
Well, I would like us to do things you haven't seen, for sure.
Yeah, I would rather do things like Jack's Back and Driftwood and things like that.
And The Watcher. Have you seen The Watcher?
About 15 years ago, whenever it came out.
Oh, well,
I saw it. It was during my time of like buying ex-rental VHS from Blockbuster in High Wycombe, so it was years ago.
But that covers about a 12-year period.
No, about a 2-year period. So.
Are you mental? You spent so long buying experimental VHS tapes.
Yeah, I guess so. I had such a collection.
I know, I'm
I
sorry.
wish I still had it.
I know, I'm sorry.
So anyway, thanks ever so much.
No, thank you very much
I think
for having
that's
me.
been an incredibly successful
I think
first
so. I
thing.
think people are already talking about,
Right.
and we haven't even done it yet.
And considering the spaghetti bolognese sized knot that was the plot of this movie, I'm pretty glad we managed to unravel it in some way.
Yeah.
I think high fives all round. And let's get the fuck out of here.
All right.
I am ready for my close-up today. Too long I've let my self-respect stand in my way. For the prom queens caught in the high beams and the strings keen. It's a big scene. But when the house goes up in flames, no one emerges triumphantly from it when the scum begins to circle the drain. Everybody loves the winner. I spent 8 hours in my makeup chair. I waxed my chest and shaved off all my hair. Well, the fire bright and the frames tight. Try to get it right.